Hi, I'm Dennis,
Hey, I'm John.
and today we're talking about old money versus new money. Now, John, do you have any idea what that means?
Nope, you tell me.
All right. So, um, how I thought of this topic, old money versus new money, actually came from two places, and maybe these places you've never heard before to our listeners, or maybe you have. One of the places is actually from a movie called Titanic. And another piece is from Complex. So, if you're a person that likes sneakers or like clothing or fashion, then Clot, Edison Chen, who is the creator, founder of that brand, he talks about something called Fu Yi Doi, which in Chinese means like second generation money, right? Now, the definition of old money is actually, the how of the previous generations, or maybe 100 years ago, whatever period of time, people who have found like wealth through things like land, oil, real estate, maybe starting businesses that didn't never happen, creating new products of that sort, and then that wealth is actually transferred down to the next generation and the next generation, and they finite they improve it, or they just bring down that tradition, and it goes down. So the money just keeps circulating, and they keep that business or however they're making money, and it just keeps going. But new money, however, it's your first generation. Think of it as maybe you're starting a startup. Maybe you came into some wealth that you've never seen before. Like maybe you won some lottery, or you discover something brand new that no everybody wants, right? So that's new money, and these two areas, the most interesting piece is, the concern is the same for these. It's how you would kind of improve, or how would you continue that flow of money. But does that sound something that it's kind of familiar, or you came across something like this, John?
Yeah, you know what? It does sound kind of makes sense when you say old money and new money. I guess like you said, old money is, existing wealth that gets passed down to a generation, and new money is the kind of, the ones who maybe take the risk and, make that new money. But what are your thoughts? Like, do you think which one is there, like one that's better, or like when I think about it, if old money means kind of passed down generation wealth, does it, do you give that respect, or do you give that kind of like, you just kind of been given the golden spoon?
Yeah, I would say it really depends on the industry you're from. Say for example, your great great grandfather has a recipe for a food item. Let's just throw in there pizza. Okay, I know we're both Asian from our last podcast. We kind of discussed from there. But I'm just thinking about random food item, pizza. So your great grandfather has that recipe, and everybody loves it. Best in all of Canada, and all that, right? And if that were, that same quality was to pass down, you're feeding the same families, and all that, and you still have that same taste, and they kind of, come back, right? I think that's very well respected. I wouldn't say that, if you were something, if you couldn't recreate that, or you just not doing as much to improve that the product, whereas thinking of business strategies or anything of those along lines, then that's where I think where the downfall would be. And that's how I see both new money and old money, is just how do you bring it down to the next generation? Because like John, you mentioned it, every next generation will have it easier, right? They may not be as hard in the beginning. They could spend big amounts of money, show off, and all that. But how does that how does it maintain, and how does it keep going? But those are the interesting factors I kind of want to bring up and talk about.
Yeah, you know, I I think this is true, but I'm not 100% sure. But isn't like in Canada, there's like a couple like wealthy family that owns like a bunch of stuff. I think I know Weston family, like Loblaws. I
Mm-hmm.
see the name everywhere because I just went to the AGO, and they have their name kind of marketed on I guess some of the you know, I guess exhibits or something. And then I saw Science Center, they have their name there, Shopper Drug Mart,
Mm-hmm.
Weston family, and I guess other big families like Rogers. Yeah, like that's kind of my interpretation. I think if I just look at it from a, you know, business point of view, I don't think that any of those business are going to go out of business anytime soon. But if I had to kind of put a, preference on it, I kind of respect new money because, you know, I think just that, overcoming adversity and, kind of making it on your own, I really like that kind of hustle and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
grind.
Right. And also, just for our listeners, as John mentioned, AGO. That's actually the Art Gallery of Ontario. So who's those who don't know, and you bring up a good point. I think with these wealthy families, I think how they're succeeding and what, like you mentioned, it's they're not going away anytime soon. I think the key word here is diversification. Putting their money in different places, rebranding themselves. A lot of people may not even know that this one business is actually owned by like an umbrella or a parent company, and that just keeps going. And then with what they say, right? The rich get richer. So if you're smart about it, you put in areas where they're new and developing, and then that secures the next threshold, and it just keeps going. But again, that's the I think the old money approach. The new money approach, however, it is very interesting and it's very wild, right? Because a lot of things you kind of thought of, but it's not just because someone have thought it doesn't mean you cannot survive or cannot achieve to be the best one, right? Do you agree with that, John?
Yeah, like statistically, I think I looked it up. Isn't it 99% of businesses fail? That one top 1% will succeed. So yeah, it's pretty
Wow,
interesting.
that's a interesting stat. The only one that I think I can contribute close to that is actually, I think as a new business or whatever a storefront, they say that I think it's the third or fourth owner of that same establishment. Whatever you kind of have as a store, it's only the third or fourth owner is what is the most successful. The previous owners, they tend to have a fail. So maybe your stat is painting that picture.
Yeah, you know what? That actually rings a bell.
Yep.
I went to culinary school, and that was one of the classes. They mentioned it's the third restaurant owner
Mm-hmm.
most of the time is the one that becomes profitable because maybe getting really technical here. You might have learned this in school too, Dennis. You know how you got to put in capital to maybe start a business. There's overhead, there's
Yep.
investment, R&D, kind of you name it. And you don't typically most businesses, depending what your business model is, you're probably negative cash flow the first 3 4 years, right? And I think from my experience any business that can kind of break even at the third year, it might be considered a good investment. So I think the odds are stacked against new money, but I think just being able to earn that new money, I think you earn a level of respect, in my books.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. And I think the difficulty in like the new money, right? Like again, I mentioned, the market is very saturated. How you come up on top is where you really need to dig into or not really, yeah, dig into. I'm thinking of putting a thinking cap, but if those who understand or John, you understand what I'm trying from, you really need to reach deep within yourself and try to figure out what is the best approach to be that top, right? Is it awareness? Is it investing into proper human capital and things like that? People that help and support you from there. But ultimately, I think new money would be something a little bit more fresh, and everybody wants to root for the underdog, right?
Yeah. Will you consider investing in cryptocurrency as new money? Like, maybe for the ones who made money from it, because, you could buy at the top and you could have held the bag, right?
Exactly. I think as long as well, let me ask you this, right? Do you think that anybody have owned crypto have passed it on in name of that, whatever they invested into, like their kids or anything yet?
Yeah. Don't quote me on this, but someone told me about cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
There's a finite cap, right? I think there's only maybe 21 million in circulation. And I think it gets tricky there because compared to, I guess, if you have like like an estate, if you pass away, you might have an estate that goes to your dependents or whoever you put it in your will. I
Hmm.
think cryptocurrency has some new rules, or if you don't get that properly set up, you die with the Bitcoin you hold. You actually that Bitcoin becomes out of circulation. So, you know, just the simple economics, supply and demand. So Bitcoin's kind of interesting. So, to answer your question, Dennis, I really don't know. I think crypto, Bitcoin only kind of blew up these past 2, 3 years, but I think it's been around longer than that, maybe in the early 2010s.
I
But
think I've actually heard of Bitcoin. No, I mean, yeah, don't quote me on this. I think I've heard it between like 2008, like as early as that, to be honest. But and again, at the time, no one really knew what it was or how profitable it would be. But it is like you said, John. Like only in the last few years where it blew up in popularity and people are seeing the great benefits from it. But I'm still in the dark about it. I think it would be a great topic to dig a little bit deep into that and share our findings with our viewers. But yeah, like you bring up a good point about the circulation piece as well. But I was just thinking to myself about that guy that forgot his password. I think that portfolio is gone, right?
yeah, I honestly am not an expert in that blockchain technology, so I'm probably the worst person to ask about this. I
Mm-hmm.
do have a little bit of Bitcoin, so I hope it goes up, but I don't think like when you mentioned would that become, I guess, old money you said? So I don't know. I don't know if anyone passed on this wealth yet. If someone did make a lot of money from Bitcoin or crypto,
Yeah,
right?
because even this year too, I think the whole NFT piece just started too, right? So I think whoever invests into that is considered new money. I would say, right?
Okay.
That's an interesting point, right? It's like if you have something like this, like where does it go from here and all of that. But that risk factor again, it relies on how is it profitable for the next generation? Does it continue to go and continue to flow, right? Because ultimately, if crypto and NFTs continue to be the way they are, then I definitely can see that, and I can see it blossoming a new kind of wealth. But we, as a community or people in general, they have to believe in it, right?
Yeah. Well, can I ask you something, Dennis?
For sure, 100.
Like,
Percent
you brought up this topic, but what dollar value is considered new money? What, like, you earn $1? Is that new money, or you know, is it a like a cap? Like, if you made $1 million, then that's considered new money. I'm just kind of curious because I don't I'm kind of new to this topic.
hundred
What have you
percent.
heard?
I haven't really dig into it as a dollar value. There may be some things that you can find through Google, but these are just points I kind of want to talk about, right? So, um, if you're in a business and it generates some sort of income, right? I believe that you can consider that as old money if it's passed on through different generations, right? Like if you yourself, John, you create a business and it's successful, it creates maybe even as little as $50 a month, right? If you have somehow pass that on into your kids or your cousins or your I don't know, like someone down like who's younger than you, right? I think that's a generational gap. I would consider that to be old money, right? That person that get it, he will be considered, getting old wealth, which is from you. However, if you start generating from nothing to something, that to me is new money.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah. I just really want to touch upon this because like you see the fruits of that labor of old money, right? You see kids or who are younger than us or maybe even the same age, right? Are able to not lift too much or do too much, and they have these very materialistic things and they kind of flash and show off and all that, right? And their life could be set to the next, right? Because they have a maybe a trust fund or something along the lines of that, and you can't see it. And then you see the other side, everybody's like hustling and trying to create something from nothing in order to try to reach that level, that's where the new money is, right? So it's kind of interesting. Not a lot of people talk about it. Just want to discuss here and kind of from our experience now, have we ever witnessed this and whatnot?
Yeah. I just trying to think about, people back in school.
Mm,
I don't know. I think everyone's just working kind of day jobs.
yep.
So, you are making money, but it's
Hmm.
not that like you're not gonna, I don't know, maybe become successful executive and make good money. You invested in real estate, you invested in the stock market, and maybe that becomes the future old money, right? Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
It's like I'm just digging into my memories. I remember going on a trip to China once, and then this family, they didn't have to do much, but they were just it was one of those trips where they bring you to new places and you can it's a tour bus, and then there's a lot of shopping in between, right? Like we were in China, so then they went through like jade stores and pearl stores, those kind of high things, right? And then they were spending like it was nothing, like it was like grocery shopping, right? And then through conversations we discovered that they own land back in the States. There's a shopping mall on top of it, apparently, and they just collect every month, right? And they don't do much. And that's because, their family gets passed on something from, their previous generation, like their grandfather. Who owned the land, so they're just living off it. They can just give that to the next their kids, and it just keeps going, right?
Yeah.
And their kids are very well off. They're not flashy in that regard, but they were able to like go to really prestige schools and do these all extracurriculars and take these for us I would say high risk places events, but it's for them it's like it's nothing, right? Um, that's the interesting views of old money, but again, you don't know what once they acquired it, you don't know what's gonna happen, right? What if they were somehow cheated away that benefit, right? That's the risk factor. Even with like if they were start something from net new, what's the risks that are associated in continuing that, right?
Yeah, the story you brought up, it's I went to Asia once too, and I heard the same thing. It's like certain cities, I guess, China is huge. I think it's bigger than Canada. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're the biggest, but they have a lot of land, and that's what happened to a lot of families. They were farmers, but
Yep.
because they were on plots of land that were, I guess, desirable, whether it's in a good location or whatever, it's these farmers became millionaires or multimillionaires overnight. And to kind of answer or talk about what you mentioned, yeah, maybe they end up using that money to create successful businesses, or maybe they just end up spending it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think every country has kind of their own unique, circumstances that became, families became wealthy.
Yeah.
I haven't studied Canada history enough, but I'm pretty sure we have similar situations, or it's like those like crazy, families that have these crazy like big businesses across Canada, and just maybe monopolize certain industries, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Need research.
It's like for Chinese, there's that term, right? The fui doi, right? I think that's exactly where John is pointing out. It's like these families that have land or whatnot, and their kids or their next generation grandkids are just spending, right, and just like proving who is the most wealthiest. And then you have the oil princess, right, like in Dubai, who lives in like mad luxury and don't donate for the sake of taxes, right? It's insane. It's like so much money that they have to do that in order to cut down on government spendings and whatnot. But yeah, it almost gives you like that perspective. It's like sometimes like life isn't fair, right? You're either born with wealth or you kind of have to hustle your way up, or the middle class is just like the working class, right?
Yeah, so I am pro new money, so I support new money. Anyone who obtains new money has my respect, and I kind of look at them as role model.
Right. Awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a topic that I just want to introduce. Not something that from my eyes I've seen a lot. I kind of want to put it into words. You gotta pick these up on the way. But it's just something that we want to shoot the shit with. We don't want to always bore you guys with topics that are a little bit too intense. Something maybe we just thought of in the shower and want to share. Well, that's about it. John, do you have anything else to add to this?
No, that's good. Thanks for sharing this idea and concept. And I think it's good to bring it up. And I think we realized, through these conversations, there's so much new topics we can kind of derive from what we just talked about today. So good topic, Dennis.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, John. All right, to our loyal listeners or whoever has started listening into our podcast, have yourself a great night, evening, morning, wherever you're listening from. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.